What if the biggest twist in 3.8 isn't the return to Penacony, but the confirmation that your memory can be edited? And if memory can be edited, then reality can be too. In all right, Trailblazers. Let me first say that this isn't about to be another recap. This is my perspective on what is actually happening in 3.8. Because I think that in 3.8, the concept of memory evolved from a narrative theme and into a system, a tool that can be used to guide people, protect secrets, and manipulate outcomes. Remember, the whole idea of Penacony was to create a dream filled with ecstasy. But that can only happen if you can manipulate what people experience in the first place. To me, the patch keeps circling around the really uncomfortable idea that some of what you remember isn't missing by accident. Oh no, it was removed. And someone knows how to do it cleanly, leaving no trace. So today's theory is simple. 3.8 is setting up memory as a weapon. And the Stellaron is the anchor that makes the weapon stable. What 3.8 clearly puts on the table. Let's talk about what 3.8 places in front of us. First of all, we return to Penacony, which by itself is a little strange. But the focus isn't sightseeing or a festival this time. It's the dream infrastructure itself and what it can do to perception and identity. Secondly, I noticed that the story points directly at missing/manipulated memories. Third, we're pulled into key moments through Firefly's perspective, and to me, that emphasizes how point of view changes what truth even means inside a dream system and to the greater story. And lastly, Hoyo ensures that the chapter keeps implying that Penacony doesn't just host dreams, it can literally alter the dreamer. The new character isn't mysterious, they're manipulation incarnate. Now, let's talk about the figure 3.8 introduces into this memory problem, the Dahlia. A lot of players will focus on aesthetics, the elegance, the danger, the vibe. And I'll admit that part of it was cool. But don't forget that she tells us she is a cremator. Their presence is presented like memory is something you can burn down and rebuild. And in a place where dreams and what is perceived can be constantly manipulated, someone who has traded factions like they do clothes only makes things muddier. And that's important to me because this chapter is also about the Trailblazer's memory being compromised. So we have this cremator, who isn't really trustworthy, showing up and telling us our memories have been tampered with, just out of the kindness of her heart? Nah, not buying it. But if you remember what I talked about in my last vid about what I think the Stellaron is, that makes this whole situation that much more spicy. Core theory. The Stellaron is a memory anchor. Okay, so let's look at this another way. In 3.8, the Stellaron is being reframed, not just as power, but as an anchor for identity. Because don't forget, the Trailblazer carries a Stellaron within. The Stellaron is stable within the Trailblazer, but the manifestation of that stability is based on their experience, kind of like a save file that can be preserved, restored, or rewritten, without the person collapsing. At least that's my theory. But think about it. What does 3.8 bring together? 1. Penacony is a dream system where perception and narrative can become real forces. 2. The story highlights memory manipulation as an active reality, not a metaphor. 3. A new presence enters the story, carrying the idea that memory can be burned and replaced. But this sets the stage for a diabolical plot twist, though. Think about this. If you can delete memory, you can hide secrets. But if you can delete memory and then restore it in a controlled sequence, you can guide someone through the exact emotional and moral state needed to make a specific choice. I mean, that's huge. Really huge. You can literally reshape someone's reality. So 3.8 is not just about forgetting. I think it's maybe showing us an entirely dangerous process, which is edit what someone remembers, therefore changing what they choose, and therefore change what becomes real. Because what if the Dahlia doesn't reveal all of her true intentions to us? What if she is trying to turn the Trailblazer into a weapon without us knowing it? Now, that's just a theory of mine. But how do we know that it isn't the case? Let me know what you think in the comments. Why Firefly's POV is a warning. Now let me tell you why I think 3.8 focuses on Firefly's perspective. I don't think it was just character focus. It's a warning around the story itself. I think the warning is that two people can live the same event and leave with different perspectives. We have also seen a similar idea in the Amphoria story arc, but I plan to make another video about that at some point. Firefly's perspective matters because her entire story is about what gets taken from you, what you keep, and what you're forced to become. Let me explain how I reached that conclusion. First of all, Firefly is a member of Glamoth's Iron Cavalry, who are soldiers scientifically engineered for a war against the Swarm. And in the lore, they are literally called weapons born for war, with an existence solely tied to duty and sacrifice. Iron Cavalry soldiers were engineered with a built-in fail-safe condition, a predetermined genetic defect, leading to their premature death, as stated in the lore. Their identity is institutionalized because the Glamoth relic lore says warriors are birthed from the incubators, given numbers and missions. That right there is evidence of the fact that from creation, her life is not hers, but is to be given in service to Glamoth. She never even had a choice. Kinda screwed up when you think about it, right? But that lack of choice isn't really all that different from memories being cremated in order to alter a person's choices and destiny. But I digress. This proves that her life itself, and the ability to determine its course, was taken from her, at least initially. As for what is kept, that's an easy one. Despite being built and used as a tool, Firefly's arc keeps circling back to the idea that she still has something intact. Attachments, personal memories, and a will to live as Firefly, not merely as a function. She joined the Stellaron hunters as proof of her determination to find her own path with what life she has left. 3.8 doubles down on this by making you experience parts through her perspective and by connecting her to memoria and old bonds, like the AR-214 thread. It's actually pretty clever by Hoyo. So in other words, the story is highlighting that. Even if your life was designed, what you remember and who you care about becomes the core of what you keep. As for what one is forced to become, that's where things get interesting. You see, Firefly was made for war. Sam is proof of that. She wants to be her own person, but the world keeps treating her like a weapon that exists to be used. That paradox, person versus tool, is what drives her conflict, and it leaves her having, at least at times, back to being something she didn't choose, but must be in order to accomplish what she feels she must. Pretty deep, actually. So, when 3.8 paired her viewpoint with memory manipulation themes, it begged me to ask, is this what actually happened, or what was allowed to remain in her mind? Because remember, this cremator entering the fray isn't coincidence. And remember, Constance tricked Firefly into thinking she was a Stellaron hunter and then wiped Firefly's memory when Black Swan exposed her. While she was eventually found out, how do we know that Dahlia didn't cremate some of Firefly's other memories for reasons unknown? And if that's true for Firefly, it's definitely gotta apply to the Trailblazer. Because 3.8 is pointing at the Trailblazer as someone whose memory can be tampered with and still function afterward. That's not normal. How can one's memories be tampered with and still essentially remain the same? How's that possible? The promise isn't just emotional. It's behavioral programming. Now we hit the emotional hinge of 3.8, which was the promise with Firefly. Most players will treat this as closure, and yes, on the surface it is. But 3.8 went way deeper than I expected it to, because first of all, our memories are our purpose. It's the foundation of who we are. The thing is, though, that a promise is powerful because it changes what you'll do next if we believe it to be true. So things like loyalty, responsibility, attachment, guilt, hope are no longer simple feelings. By themselves, they are the product of belief in the promise. So here's another uncomfortable part for me. 3.8 uses the promise to demonstrate that a person's future actions can be guided by shaping the memories that matter most. If someone can edit memory, they don't just erase facts. They can shape what you'll sacrifice for. That's the scariest part for me. What 3.8 sets up next. If my reading of 3.8 is even close to right, I have two possible outcomes based on this. Roll with me on this. Number 1. The Trailblazer's memory becomes strategic territory. Imagine that she herself becomes a battlefield because information will be delivered in timed releases that influence choices. By whom? We don't know yet, nor do we know why. But I keep going back to Elio and Terminus. Maybe it's simply to play some great role in the universe's future. Number 2, Penacony becomes a tool that factions can't ignore. I think that Penacony is not a location we quote-unquote finished, but a functioning system capable of manipulating perception and identity. That alone will open up a new can of worms. The IPC benefits from such a tool, and it's no wonder they played a major role in the Penacony storyline with Aventurine literally sacrificing himself for leverage and to force our Nihility Emanator's hand. I think Hoyo is leaving the door open for something much deeper within the overall story, and who really knows how deep this rabbit hole is about to go. Final thoughts. So here's the real question 3.8 leaves us with. If someone edited your memory to save the future, would you thank them? Or would you hunt them down, assuming you even understood what happened to you? Drop your theory in the comments. What do you think was removed from the Trailblazer's memory in 3.8? And why was it worth burning? Catch y'all in the next one.